No one knows this about me, but I used to be the nation's second most popular book reviewer. I never told anyone because, well, I was not number one. But that is about to change now. Because I'm building my dream book reviewing app that will help me become the number one book reviewer. And hopefully, it will finally make my mother proud of me. But before that, I have to give you a bit of context, because I know a few of you will be a bit skeptical. Year? A book reviewer? Is he being serious? Can he even read? Yes, I can assure you I can read, and yes, I am being serious. Although, I have to be honest and admit that the country in which all of this happened is the micronation of Malta. It only has 500,000 inhabitants. And full disclosure, I think I only lasted about 2 days in the charge before I fell off back into obscurity again. But you know, it still counts. I managed to pull off this feat by simply posting my reviews to Goodreads. There, they received staggering amounts of likes, which in turn propelled me to book critic stardom. Okay, maybe the amount of likes was a bit of an exaggeration. In reality, I only got a handful of likes. But it was enough to bring me to the top of the list in Malta. At that time, my reviewing process looked a bit like this. First, I would read a book on my e-reader and make some notes. Then, I would export those notes and analyze them on my computer. Finally, I would follow up by writing my review. This seems simple, and it certainly was. There was just one big bottleneck. The export file of my e-reader was one massive mumbo-jumbo of all of my notes. It was very inconvenient. But there's nothing that can't be fixed by a bit of code. And thus I wrote a basic JavaScript reader that served as a simple static interface for this text file. This worked fine, but it was just not very sophisticated. It was still just a static interface. I couldn't really edit or change any notes. And worst of all, there was a severe lack of cool graphs. Oh, how I longed for some cool graphs. And that's reason enough to design a new prototype. So let's go ahead. Firstly, let's discuss the battle plan. The main function of this web app should be importing my Kindle notes and displaying them in an easy format. Then, the notes also need to be stored in a database, so I can access them independently of the text file. Next to that, I'd love to augment the original data with information from external sources. So instead of only knowing the book title and the author's name, I'd also like to know the amount of pages, the publication date, the gender and nationality of the author, and more stuff like that. Now, that will be the backbone of this project. There's still a couple of other features I'd like to add as well, but I'll get into that later. First, I'd like to take a sip of my tea, because it's been getting cold. So now that is out of the way, let's get started. I already went ahead and set up the various tables in the database. One for the highlights, one for the books, one for the authors, and then also various other tables that will come in handy later. All that is missing now is the data from the e-reader. Now we can't just upload the file as it is. We need to clean it up first, and we need to make sure that each individual highlight is stored as a separate row in the table. Fortunately, the export file of my e-reader is already quite neatly structured, which makes it very easy to extract data from it. Each highlight mentions the book title, the author, the location in the book, the content that is being highlighted, as well as a timestamp. Once we've extracted the data and it's all been stored in their corresponding tables, we can try to output it onto the screen. Okay, that seems to work, but it's a bit of an eyesore at the moment. Let's apply some front-end magic to this. Now I can check out all of my notes per book, there they all are, and at the top I also have the metadata of the book and the author. Right now I have to add all of this data manually, which, to be fair, is a bit lame. So let's see if we can set up a couple of APIs that can deliver this data to us automatically. I chose to work with the Open Library API and the Wikidata API because they are free and easy to use. So every time I upload a new book or a new author, the application will send a request to these APIs.
Please, sir, I want some more.
Which the APIs will respond to by sending the data.
Okay.
Now that we've gathered all of this publicly available data, the next step is to add user-generated data. What I mean by this is all the stuff that is specific to my personal reading experience. This is what I've come up with so far. You can see all of the data, and if you click on the edit button, then you can update the data however you like. I noticed the book covers that I'm loading from the Open Library website are quite slow, so I've decided to create a tiny placeholder image that I can host on my own server. Maybe in the future I will decide to download and host all individual book covers myself, but for now this will do. Huppakee! The main reason why I'm building this web application is to view and annotate my notes. To do this, I've added a like button, a tag button and a comment button to each and every highlight. The tags are especially handy because they allow me to discover common themes among books. I do this by bundling the tags into categories on this overview page for the tags. Another important part of my old reviewing process was answering the questions from my reviewing template. I wanted to include this step in the app as well. So if you click on this Show Questions button, you will get a split view of your highlights and notes on one side and the reviewing questions on the other side. You can flick through these questions and answer them as you like. Are all of these questions random, you may ask? The answer is no. I've created a handful of templates for different types of books. So there's questions for fictional books, for non-fiction, narrative non-fiction, biographies, and I've also added the function to create custom templates for when I feel like I want to switch it up a bit. The final step of my reviewing process is combining all of my notes into a coherent book review. And for that I've added this simple what you see is what you get form. From here I can just copy paste my review onto my blog, onto Goodreads or Storygraph or wherever I want to publish my book review. Once we've aggregated a bunch of this type of data, we can start doing some really cool stuff. Because I don't know if you remember, oh how I longed for some cool graphs. Well, this is the moment to start building them. Huppatee! There we go. I've created 3 graphs. The first one shows the amount of books I read per month. The second one displays the spread of different nationalities my authors have. And the final one is concerning the author's gender. Now that we are finished creating all of these graphs, there's only one function I would like to add to this app. I'll explain more about that during a short walk through the park. You see, the cool thing about reading is all the information that you can consume. But sometimes it's not the information that captivates me. Sometimes it's simply the words that spark my interest. Fortunately, my e-reader has a built-in dictionary, so I can immediately discover the definition of these words. I usually highlight them as well, with the intention of creating a collection of all of these lovely words. Yet up until now, I've never really gone back to these single-worded highlights. But now that we're building this app, we can easily filter out all of these single-worded highlights and create a personal dictionary of exotic words. It also automatically fetches the definition of these words. So now I can permanently enjoy the meaning of all the words. And there you have it everyone, it's finished. My dream book reviewing app that will hopefully help me become the #1 book reviewer of the nation is finally finished. I know this video doesn't show it that well, but there's a lot of time and effort that went into this project. More than I would like to admit. And still it's not perfect of course. The UI is quite rudimental and there's still a lot of things I would like to add or improve. But at some point you just have to say it's finished now. I'm gonna publish it. And that moment is now. That means the app is live. Does that mean I can create an account as well? Well, of course, why would I keep this app all to myself? So if you have a Kindle, you can go to snurdyblurb.com, create an account and upload your notes and enjoy. Now hold on a minute. You called your app snurdyblurb.com? What does that mean? Aha, good question. I have no idea.
Snurdyblurb.com, what does it mean? I don't know. Does it really matter? No, not so. It's my app, I can call it what I want to. Snurdyblurb is somehow the name I ended up with.
Snurdyblurb.com, what does it mean? I don't know. Does it really matter? No, not so. It's my app, I can call it what I want to. Snurdyblurb is somehow the name I ended up